Hey folks, it's Grant over here on Big Tough Farmer. Wanted to do a quick in the field little briefing. I just got done, had to change this float valve out real quick for one of the layer flocks. Came across it yesterday evening and it was leaking, so I had to shut the water off and come out here first thing and fix that. But before I did that this morning, I loaded a customer with garden soil, because we're in the composting garden soil business as well. And he manages, it's kind of a project manager for a machine shop. And we're talking about staffing and training new folks up and that sort of a thing. And the one thing I'm bringing up in those conversations is very similar to the video that I did on generational conflict. I believe that the generational conflict is happening right now, is alive and well. Every new generation is going to have conflict with the older generation and the generation behind them. But I think it's pretty palpable right now, and it's just causing unnecessary stress, and we're losing money as a result. So I just kind of want to talk about that real quick. So he, like many other folks, have brought up how they're bringing, recent high school graduates, 19-year-olds, what have you. They may have, spent some time in a shop class, or they may have taken some courses at a community VOTEC college or something. They go into the machine shop and they just can't grasp a lot of the concepts, and they may ask them to do certain things and they just don't know how to do it. The example that he actually came up with, even though it's a machine shop, had a young kid in there. They had to cut some grass. They asked him to jump on the regular push mower, and the kid, who is a wanting to become a machinist, did not know how to operate the lawnmower. And that conversation had a risk of going into the kids these days kind of conversation. And whenever I smell that coming on, I try to change the conversation as fast as I can into, well, what can you do as the manager or leader to keep that from happening? When I say keep that from happening, keep you from being a bitter old curmudgeon, which he was not being at all. But that's more of the common thing. You don't want to be the bitter old curmudgeon and to say, kids these days, blah, 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 and you just bitch and complain about it. The folks that do that do not want to adapt. They do not want to change their leadership style. They do not want to change their manager style. And they look at the situation from when they grew up and their time and context from when they were kids. The truth of the matter is, it's different right now. We've got a lot of technology going on, and folks need to understand the technology, which the younger generations typically do. But we also need to understand, the non-digital things out there, like be able to utilize a lawnmower and, make sure it's working and operating, it's got fuel, and, to put, the oil in the gasoline mix and everything that goes along with a small engine with a carburetor. And so you need to have a mingling of these two skill sets, the digital technological skill sets, and you need a mingling of the practical, toolage, physical work that's out there. And so we had this conversation, and he responded very well to me saying, well, look, have you thought about when you onboard these young people to assume that they don't know anything? And I realize that might be kind of difficult to do and take a lot of time, but if you have somebody come in and you ask them to do something as simple as, use a push lawnmower, even though it might be a self-propelled push mower, it's still a push mower, assume that they do not know how to operate that piece of equipment and go through everything with them. So would that be too much to ask because that might save a whole lot of time, because then you know what you got. Whenever I go buy a new trailer, or something like that, I typically have all the bearings changed out, typically buy new tires, because at that point I know what I have. I have the deck, I have the frame of the trailer, I can see that, I can see the axles, I can see the leaf springs, and so the things I can't see are those bearings, what kind of shape they're in. You can pull them. My opinion, if you're going to go in and check them, you might as well just change them with a used trailer. And so you kind of know what you have. So the question is that when we onboard somebody into our program, our business, I think now, especially with younger people, it's safe to assume that you need to go over everything with them and not assume that they have any of this information. And I think that's also going to not only be relevant to digital information, but also mechanical and other technical applications. So it could be plumbing or electric or anything that you have to do on the farm. If you're a farmer, you're a plumber, a welder, an electrician, a fence builder, you're across the board on what you're doing. So there's so many dynamic things that are critical on the farm that you have to fix and repair. It is very difficult to find somebody that has those skill sets. And so when you, again, the point of this video is for, if you are an older person, and when I say older, if you're in your 40s and over, you can no longer operate in the baby boomer, mindset. If you operate with that managerial style, you need to stop like yesterday. And so you may ask the question, well, how do I stop that, or how do I change my strategy when it comes to leadership and management? There's so many books out there. There's so many resources out there for you to grasp the concept that it's easy to find out. It's easy to find that information. So I encourage you to do that. And if you're a younger person, in your 30s and down, then it's your responsibility to learn how to communicate with the older generation so y'all can meet in the middle. That is going to bring you success, and it's going to save you a lot of money with the challenges of hiring, keeping staff on, having good staff morale, and getting folks trained up. It's so important to look at this stuff. So again, if you're stuck in that mindset of, oh, these kids these days just don't know how to do this, the situation will continue to get worse for you if you do not adapt what you're how you're handling the situation and what you're up to. And so we've got some young staff at the store. I was chatting with them. They're these two young folks. One's 19, the other's a little bit older, in her mid-20s. And I was talking to them about their generational view on, working, say, over 40 hours, life-work balance, expectations. And it was a very interesting conversation that I had, because being 44, I'll be 45 here in August very shortly. I was raised in a work very hard, grind it out. If you have to work 50, 60 hours in a week, just do it mentality. We didn't have work-life balance in our vocabulary. We didn't have me time in our vocabulary, and there's a lot of bad things about that. But what I've noticed is that, the pendulum has swung maybe a little too far, and that some folks, they're younger, they may not want to work the hours. So what we did, we had this conversation. And so I think one of the resolutions that we came to was both parties getting together and say, hey, look, I really need you to work, say, 50 hours a week. And then the younger generation says, well, I don't want to work 50 hours a week. Can I make my job more efficient to where I can get the same results within the 40-hour week, to where I don't have to work the 50 hours a week? Now, that involves a manager or leadership agreeing to change strategies and protocols and implementation. Let's say this is the case on the farm. And so if both parties agree to do that, it's a really good win-win, because the farm is not paying out as many hours. They're making the farm more efficient. And the younger person who's actually boots on the ground doing a lot of this physical work, they don't have to put in the number of hours that they need to accomplish the tasks with the older ways. And so that would be an example of where I think both parties can kind of come together and say, hey, look, I don't want to work this many hours, but I could probably shave off over a course of a 5-day week, say 5 to 8 hours, if you allow me to do this task this way. And if they say, oh, we never thought of that, all right, go ahead and implement that. We'll track it, and then we'll just see how it happens. That would be a resolution where, you know, both paradigms, an older generation and a younger generation, can kind of come together and create a win-win environment. You know, the farm's going to make more money because they're putting out less payroll. Their efficiency is going to increase. They're going to make tasks easier, and then then the person doing the work is going to have more free time, because they're not going to be working as many hours. They may not need the money, but the thing is that younger generation now is valuing their free time more than the money. And so that's the one thing that the older generation, I think, misses out, is that they're willing to make that sacrifice to receive less pay, to have more free time. And then to some people, you know, they would make their head explode to try to behave that way, because if they're working, they want to make a lot of money, and they want to keep pushing. So anyway, so this is just like a quick briefing rant on, you know, the implications and maybe some ideas on resolving the generational conflict right now that's happening. And so it's your responsibility to change your behavior and to change the way that you're communicating with the other generation in order to achieve that goal. So you really need to do the work, do the self-reflection, ask yourself, why am I thinking it? You know, what am I thinking? Why am I thinking this? Could I be wrong? Is there a better way? It's so important for you to do and go through that self-evaluation if you're going to be working with different generations, so y'all can work together and utilize each other's strengths and weaknesses to create a really good team. So I just want to put that out there for those of you who may be struggling with the generational conflict on the farm right now. And so I hope that this video may help you. And so good luck. I need to get back to it. I think I'm procrastinating because it's going to be a hot one today. But anyway, have a good one. Behave yourself. Do good things.